Welcome back to Allison Customs Project Car TV. Today I am trying to take a day to work on the Scout. It's been a while and I just never make time. So today's one of those days I'm going to try and make time. So what I've got are two doors, both passenger doors obviously, or maybe not obvious, but the hinges are over here, the wing window would be right here. This is the door that came off the truck. It's been media blasted, and if you recall in the previous videos I've talked about the amount of damage that the truck had, rust and other stuff, and that it had been repaired in the mid-80s. Repaired being they did some welding, some rust repair, mostly just spread a lot of mud over everything. So this door was a replacement door at the time. The original door was so badly gone that they chose this door as the replacement. And it's not in terrible shape. I mean, it's got some holes that have been welded up, and there's a dent down here at the bottom that they had just filled full of mud. There's a pretty good crease along here, and a couple others in the top. Certainly salvageable, very savable door. I can pull the window and stuff out, get to the inside, knock the big dent out, clean up the creases a little bit. You can put a skim coat of mud on it, and it'll be fine. It'll work just fine. Now, that said, there's also somebody cut out, you would think, for a speaker in the door, and I don't know, maybe they cut out for not a 16 by 9, but a 20 by 30. I don't know. There's a huge hole in the corner where there would almost always be a speaker put in the door. This has a speaker cut out as well, so do the other doors, the driver's sides. So that needs to be at least partially repaired. We may put a speaker back in there, but we need to at least fix some of it. This door is one I picked up in Albuquerque about a month ago. It just came back from media blasting yesterday. It had some black bumpers or something on here, so I don't know what it came off of, but so we got 6 holes we'd have to weld up in this one. This door has rust down here in the bottom and a little bit over here on this side. This side I think we can clean up a little more and then just treat that. This side is actually all the way through, and we're going to have to put a patch panel in it. So on the surface we would say this is the better door. Work-wise, this one has no other dents in it. It's just got that little bit of rust. It's very straight. Hinges are in good shape. And why do I have 2 doors if one was salvageable anyway? I want to replicate the look of a Scout SS, where it had the black plastic pieces over the doorway. Kind of makes it look more Jeep-like, Jeep-esque. However, I don't want to climb through the things, and so I thought I would try and make it a little easier. And easier being later, not now, because now is all the work. And what my idea is to take the worst of these 2 doors and cut the door shape out in the shape of the SS, and then plate all that. All the SS's, the plastic was like an ABS or something, or maybe fiberglass. I really don't know. I haven't actually ever been in front of one in real life. But the black piece was bolted onto the fender, bolted onto the quarter panel, or riveted or something, and it was just black. It didn't matter what your body color was, the panel, the insert was black. I'm going to try and recreate it where I have the whole shape. I'll do it in body color, and then weld in the gap, and then make it to where it's still a door. It opens, so it's still easy to get in and out. You close it, you can put your foot up on it when you're running down the highway or whatever, and it looks like an SS, kinda, but a little more accessible. That's my thinking. Which door to choose? This one needs some rust repair and 6 holes filled. But if we cut the thing out, we're going to miss those holes. We still have to do the rust repair. This door has a hole or 2 in here for some mirrors that I would never put back on it, and a big dent at the bottom. And we could do the same thing. We could cut this one out. we would miss a couple of the holes and some of the rust or the previous holes that have been repaired. We'd miss some of these creases would just disappear. We wouldn't have to worry about it. But we still got to fix the big dent at the bottom. Either way, we're doing either a dent repair or a rust repair. And the fact is, we're going to do both anyway, because at some point, I think one of my my only grandson would like to have this truck to drive to high school. Now, he's only 11, so he's got plenty of time. But if he does that, he's up in the Northwest, he's going to need doors and a top. So I picked up a top. I know we already had one, but it's really, really rough. There's a lot of rust in it. A lot of holes have been drilled in it for different things. So I think I'm just going to clean it up as best I can and put that one on Facebook Marketplace or somewhere and let somebody else who wants to deal with it, try their hand at it. I found one that's got a big dent, but there's no rust. So that's the one I'm choosing to work on for me. Now, so either way, we've got to fix both. And then it's just a matter of which one is going to be easier to cut out and have a nice finished product, leaving the other door, the better door. So I'm thinking that we are better off to leave this door as the full door, and this door, the one that came off the truck, be the one we cut down. We fix a dent, and we cut out all the creases that are in this door, and it's functional. Now we've got to take the windows and the regulators and all that stuff out, but I already did that on this other door, so no big deal. On the driver's door, it's no question. The door that came off the truck is covered in Bondo, super thick, and there's rust holes, and so we are going to have to do some repairs even to do our SS thing, but it's definitely the door to cut up, because the driver door that I just picked up out of Albuquerque is almost flawless. It has one dent in it that you can get to from the inside of the door. So that one's going to be the easy fix, and that'll be the door that we paint and put away for some later. I picked up hinges for both, because although these doors are designed to where you can supposedly pull it off the hinges, you don't know what you're going to want. I can swap hinges that way. I have essentially 2 sets for each door. I don't know what I'm going to do about a handle for opening the door that we cut down, but I have all the original linkage and everything, so whichever door we cut down, hopefully I can figure out how to make just a push plate that will let the door handle pop, and it'll latch into the factory latches so that it's easy to swap doors at a later date. That's it. That's what we're doing today. You've kind of heard my reasoning for choosing the door that I'm going to choose to cut up. So we're going to break this door down, get the hinges, or get the windows and the regulators and all the other stuff out of it. Then all I have is a picture that I downloaded off the internet of an SS door. I don't have actual dimensions. We are going to do our best to scale that picture to an original size and see if we can't make our own. So stay tuned. Let's see what we can do. just looked. These door panel clips are available. However, at least on the one site that I found pretty quickly to see that they're available, they are $6.50 each. Today's price. So, might make you want to be as careful as possible. I have had very limited success getting these out of here so far. I think I'm going to hold off on these last three in hopes that when I trim this door I'll be able to get to them from the back side, and maybe I'll be able to get them out, because for the most part I broke all but one that I was able to easily get to. At $6.50 each, I might want them. Alright guys, so now it's time to try and figure out how this door to look like an SS. I found a picture online that is high enough quality I can blow it up pretty well. I think based on some reference points I know where the door would have been in the hole versus the plastic. I've measured the width of the top of the door, and it's 1150 millimeters. And the reason I'm working in metric here is because my goal is to size this picture exactly 1/10 the size of the door, so then as I take measurements off the picture, you just multiply times 10 and you get the size that it needs to be on the door itself. So based on where I believe the door to actually fit, we're going to keep, in this case we're going to shrink it a little bit. We need 1150. Alright, it's not going to let me do it. Let me take this picture, center it. Wouldn't let me blow it up anymore that way. So then we'll go to photos, find that photo, and I've tried a few different ones. This one I finally found a really good set of pictures. So somebody spent some time getting some photos done. If this is your truck, thank you. So we want to scale this to 115 millimeters. That's what we're trying to scale this picture to. Best I can tell, that's it. I'm going to take that picture. This way, with this picture, it's now the right size. And I hope you guys can see this on the screen. I don't know how well it's coming through. So this is our picture. Check it one more time. Whoa. The part where I believe the door to actually sit is 115 millimeters. So now this picture is 1/10 the size of this door. As close as we can get. We are going to measure over to where it starts the curve at the top, and I would say it starts the curve at about 160. Yeah, I would say it starts the curve at about 16 millimeters or 160 millimeters on the actual door. And then it looks to be fairly straight coming through the door. So what we're going to do is come down and find a point where about where the straight line stops and it starts its curve. So it's going to come down and it's going to start a curve down here somewhere. And I've kind of mapped out a few areas. This line was just to give me a place where I could measure the full width of the door. So that piece of tape, may or may not come into use, but this is roughly where I think the bottom of the opening will be on that SS, and that's just because there's a body line right here, and so I kind of figure they might have utilized that. So I don't know that they did, but we'll see. So for now, what I want is on this picture roughly where I think they started the curve to where I believe the bottom of the actual door would be, and I'm going to say that's 28 millimeters. So that's 280. So we'll come up a couple places, mark off 280. Yeah, it's right in the middle here. So little bit. All right, so we're going to come up and mark 280. Mark it again over here somewhere. I'm just going to draw a line. And this line is only where we think the curve starts again. So curve starts. That's it. We don't know where along the line, but that's where. Now, on the picture, coming up from where we measured the 280, I'm going to measure to where I believe the door edge is. Let's see, that's 51 millimeter minus the part that is the overlap, which is 14. So the overlap at the rear overlap is 14 millimeters. I'll just keep that as a number that we need potentially a few times. So 14 millimeter from 51, 41, 37 is going to be this back line, which gets transferred to 370. Curve starts. So if I'm correct, we have a little bit of a curve up here. Starts up here and it curves kind of quickly. So we probably need that measurement. This is kind of a sharp curve and then flattens out like a long straight line. It's not just a straight line between them. Between this point and this point, we have the curve come down and then it starts. So we need to find that distance as well. So let's measure that. I would say the curve ends about there. I would call that 37 millimeter. That's interesting, same number. 37 millimeter is where it ends. And from the top, well, and that's going to be minus the 14 again. So that's 23. And the top down to where that curve ends and it kind of becomes a straight line, I'm going to say is about 40. Or 4 millimeters, so 40. So we're going to come down 40 and over 230. So 230 over here. And down 40 from the top of the door. There's the 40 line. So this curves, that doesn't look right. I mean, it is pretty sharp, but I would have thought it came down a little further. Based on that, it would be from that line to this line that are straight. And then the curve starts and goes this way. So we need our bottom line and we need our line off the edge of the door. Alright guys, well, I finally got it, and I realize you're looking at it upside down, but back of the door here, front of the door here, I had a line drawn for this back cut and wasn't quite meeting up with where I was kind of estimating measurements off of the picture for where the curve should start, so I basically just redrew a line. It does look like you could use the stock handle here. It's not my goal, but I think it would fit, even with where I've readjusted the line to. So that worked out. The angle here ended up being 63.5 degrees, so that made it easy to transfer to my other door. On the front, where I would have liked to cut it would have been where I've got this line scribbled out, because I think that would have made it a really nice opening size and everything, and make it look like you were going to use it. Problem with that is you're into where the hinges mount, and so you would be trying to box around the hinge to plate it all. So measured that out, and with a little bit of adjustment to the hinge plate on the hinge box on the inside, I'm going to be able to cut it at 155 and have it go straight through. So that's 155 millimeters here. And then I've just kind of increased the size of the arc up here. So this will curve back, this will curve back. I think it's all going to look really sharp. Very similar to the SS door. The curve here, this is you know, I got to get fancy. It's the top side of a 5-gallon bucket. The curve on this side is the bottom side of the 5-gallon bucket. And then the two curves up here are parts of a roll of tape. So yeah, you know, keep it simple. From that, took all my measurements, made sure I was happy with pretty much the shape of it, transferred that to the other door. So I used those measurements, transferred all that to this other door, and I'm plus or minus a millimeter when I laid everything out. I was very happy with how well the measurements transferred. You're now ready to start cutting doors. Now this is the door that came off of the Scout. This is the original door to the Scout as well. It's got white paint on it, so I know it's the original. White paint in just, you know, all the places that you wouldn't normally sand when you're repainting. And so you can see it's just full of Bondo, and the Bondo's, you know, he started blasting a lot of it off, and he's like, I didn't know if you wanted me to take it all off or leave it, because you could just go right over the top of it with a new coat. But because of what we're doing, we'll end up taking it off, metal working whatever we need to work here, then, you know, welding in a plate and all that. Made a little filler panel. It's probably a little excessive, but gives it plenty of material there to weld to. Let's come around these curves. This line is where this is going to get cut off. That's clever. A little bit of area there, I need to trim that back. This side's a little bit low, so I think I'm going to get a tack here on each corner, maybe one in the middle, and then I'll come in from the underside and push that up just a little bit. So there's a safety bar in this door, and the skin is glued to it. And I could pry on it and probably get it off. And I may be having to do that yet, but I think I can put some heat on it and maybe soften that stuff up. And I'll still be prying on it, but see if this works. Here we go. So here are the hinge boxes that I was worried about. If we cut way over here, then we're trying to box in around them and it'd have a weird shape then. So one of the things I kind of want to do is come off the lower hinge brace on this side all the way across over here to the door jamb, maybe with a piece of square tubing, just to create a support in there. And I'll get it right below the, ideally right below the where the sheet metal would be. So if you stepped on that, you're not just stepping on the sheet metal, you'd be stepping on the bar that would be in there. And I don't plan to climb through. That doesn't mean other people wouldn't, since it looks like it's made that way. And then probably, since I'll have that bar there, I'll probably put another bar from that up into this area to triangulate it, just to make the whole thing a little more rigid. And I may do the same thing here. I may come off that bar and come up and kind of weld in the hinge plates, just so everything is super rigid in there. Don't really need to add the weight. I can probably just use some 18 gauge square tubing, you know, maybe 1 inch or 1.25 inch square tubing would be more than sufficient. And just add a little strength to it all. So I think certainly before we cut this interior panel off, because we don't want the door closing in or opening up or anything like that, I think we'll try and probably need to get this bar out and then do the support structure that I would like. So we should be able to just drill out a couple spot welds on each end, it looks like. I can see 1, 2, looks like maybe 4 on that end. Can't see them on this end for sure. But I can see where they're welded in, so that's going to be the first trick. And then I said I would get my structure in, but I got to get that dent out before I put any structure in there, so we'll work on that after we get this out of the way. Back on the Scout door, it's been, I don't know, months since I actually got started on this door. And in the meantime, I've finished the other door. The Scout is headed off for paint. There's stuff coming out about that. Anyway, I need to finish this door because it needs to get painted as well. I've got a fender to finish. So we're just gonna be knocking out some stuff. But I started this door to make it look like a SS door. And so right now what I need to do is put a brace that I don't know that it's needed, but this is what I decided to do on the other door. So I'm just copying everything that I did. This is actually the first door I started with where I laid everything out. But then as I got moving, I wanted to keep working on both doors at once. So I started in on the second door, ended up finishing it, I don't know, a month ago. You've probably seen some of the shorts on that. But anyway, we're gonna go ahead and get the brace in. We're gonna work on starting to skin this and cutting out this other side of the door skin. And then what else we got to do? Oh, and then we'll have to put in the second latch that goes in the face here. So I know you can't quite see all that, but anyway, let's get this welded up, get this brace installed, and then we'll start working on the rest of this. All right, so what I've got here is a piece of 1-inch square tubing, and it's like I think there's 16 or 14 gauge, just a piece of whatever I had, and then a piece of 1/8 inch. It was square tubing. I cut it down to make it basically a piece of angle, and used the other half on the other door. That attaches that, and this we go inside this door. Like so. And the goal is to get it flush here, so I may have to, I'm gonna have to cut my brace on the far end down just a little bit, but I didn't know how far in to go, and I want to try and keep it fairly tight. But I need to move in a little more than 1 inch. So we'll take about a 1/2 inch off each side, and then we'll take about a 1/2 inch off each side of this, and then reset it. So hopefully you can see the bar here, and I've got it to where it's essentially flush to this lip, so that as we plate this off, we'll have some strength there. And just a couple things. One, it will help keep the door from trying to close in, because we'll weld another bar on this side here and tie the hinges into our square tube, and then we'll do over here. We don't really need anything, but I think on the other one I put one diagonal in there, so probably do that again just to help kind of keep the door from moving around. But that's pretty level across there compared to the opening. Of course, it's never going to be seen again, so all we're going to do now is go back in on the inside here and over in this corner and weld it in. Well, once again, I have forgotten to turn on the microphone. All I'm showing you here is that I took the outside skin off of the other door and used it as a pattern to get most of my lines drawn out and set up to where I wanted them. And then I used the protractor with the angles we'd found on the last door to get the actual angles and finish out my lines. Now, as I get ready to cut this, I'm going to cut inside these lines by a little bit just to leave me a little room for trim and other stuff. All right, with that all marked out, I fudged it probably just a little bit to the inside so that it would, so that I could take a little more material off if I need to. We're going to see if we can get this cut. We've got this brace in here just to make this piece of sheet metal all lay out basically flat. Obviously this will have to be body worked when we're done. Anyway, and then I just took a piece of 16 gauge, put some rolls on the end with the vise around the table. I'll get in there and get a few tack welds on the skin. And once this piece is in, we'll do the hinge side, and then we'll come back and do the latch side last. All right, we'll let that cool and come back and do it again.
But if you don't have one of these fabric tapes, is what they used to call them, seamstress tapes, you need to have one. It's the only way you can measure easily around all the corners and all that kind of stuff. So I'll put that in a link in the description for you.
Gauge, and what I'm working with here is 18 gauge, and just because the way things form, this edge isn't perfectly vertical. No big deal. You just need to make this edge, or this end, match it. So I've marked where this piece ends on the plywood here. And then we're just going to draw a line from that point to where they intersect up here. But ballpoint pen won't mark it, so I need to find something else. I just got to connect the dots. And that's what we need to cut off. And then the way I bent this was just putting it in the end of a vise and just slowly bending it a little bit at a time and coming back and checking. And it's pretty close. It's a little actually tight up here at the top, but we're going to be cutting off part of that. And then this will lay in there, tack welded across the top while we still have this bar in place, and that kind of keeps everything nice and flat. And the reason I like laying this on this plywood is because now you've got all these points that are tied, you know, or resting on the plywood, so kind of know that that bottom edge, if it's flat with the plywood, you're pretty well set to make the whole thing line up. I hope that makes sense. Like this bottom edge will line up with this edge, where on the low point, or the points that are actually touching the plywood, and then we'll kind of shape it with, as we weld it, we'll shape off some of this, just kind of like we left this high long. We'll cut that off, and then it'll be exactly the shape of the door itself. So we'll do the same thing here, and then we'll be cutting it off and making space, or making it match. Let me cut that. I have to go back and forth to different tools, but one of these days I'd like to turn one of these toolboxes I have into a like sheet metal only toolbox kind of thing. So it has my cutters and rollers and all the other tools on there. So, yeah. Alright, we'll start with putting a few tack welds so that these two line up. And this is thicker than this, so we're going to try and just line up the top edge, and then we'll push this in and weld it. Really, I should have left a little bigger gap there. We'll go ahead and trim some of this off. We're not going to try and get it right down to the edge, but we'll get some of this trimmed off and then flip the door over. Actually, let's flip it first. Get the bottom. Got a little more metal to move stuff around. Of wood to help try and make sure that the line stays mostly straight. think I'm going to start grind this side down, and we'll just get this side finish welded and flip it back over and do the other side. So let me grab a flap wheel. Okay, probably towards the end there you could hear the vibrating of the metal, and so what happened is all of this side from here to here let loose. Don't be surprised when that happens. You've been welding on an inside angle and you're not getting a lot of penetration into the actual joint. So don't be surprised when that happens. Probably going to have to weld this, well, at least one more time after you do the inside edge, but maybe twice more. Plus then filling in any little pinholes that get left open. So don't be shocked. It's not that big a deal. All we're going to do is clamp it back in place. And actually I'll probably put that piece of wood back in there. Give me that straight edge. And now that's a nice straight edge, and so I'll weld that in, and now I can kind of get right into the corner and weld it good and solid. So, but don't be surprised when that happens. You'll find it works better if you ground it. Get the idea. I'll come back when I get some more of this done. I just continued that same process and welded up this whole side, ground it down, and I like to grind it flush one way and then flush the other way so you get a nice 90, and then go back and just kind of roll up the edge over just a little bit, and then you'll have lots of little pinholes in there that you have to go back through. So once that was done, I built a little carrier for the latch so that this will weld into the door panel that'll be right here, and it's 2 bolts to hold the latch on, and then this gives us a way to transition this direction of travel for the latch to a 90 degrees off of that, which is what we need for the door latch on the Scout. Next up, we need to make this piece of skin and put a pocket in there for this latch. Measured it out already with my tape, and it's about 23 inches around to the corner here. It's again about 5.5 inches, a little bit wider than 5.5, like right here, so we'll do like 5 3/4. We'll end up shaving a lot of that off, and we got to figure out where we want a pocket here that matches the other door that's already done. So let me go cut a piece of metal Again, we'll use 18 gauge, and then I'll show you the tool I made to make this pocket.
All right, the rain got so bad you couldn't hear me over it. So what I've built here is a little press die, and I'm gonna mark where I want the main block there to where it's going to press into that receiver that's got the pins in it. And that's going to give me the recess that the Jeep handle will fit into. Now with that drawn out and the circle cut there, what I'm trying to tell you about is that we need to cut a large area out of that section that we want to press, because otherwise, as we press it, it won't stretch the metal enough in the corners, and we'll get a really bad press. I tried it just by drilling the holes. Now you can also see that it gets pretty wavy. If I would make a top plate to that to where it would press down tight, it would work, but all I'm going to do is take it over to my welding table and hammer it flat. A little bit of it needs to be stretched in the corners and stuff, so I'll do a little hammer and dolly work there, but it really only took maybe 10 minutes of hammering on that to get everything nice and finished, and a nice finished product there to weld in. All right, so here you can see how it's been finished out. I hammered it out and stretched it in the corners there. Just took a little bit of time, worked out very nice. And then we just need to open up the hole a little bit, clean it up, and test fit that handle a couple times. It took 2 or 3 times, and we had it cleaned up. Now this part is where I've made the catch and latch area that everything bolts into.
Okay, so I've been playing with this for a little bit, kind of setting it in place and moving it. And I made the connecting rod that's going to go from the factory Scout latch on the outside to our second part of our lever here. And it looks like the outer hole, which I just did 2 just to give me a little bit of leverage difference. Anyway, the outer hole is going to work just fine. So I'm going to pull the latch back out of this, set this and the other pieces aside. That's going to go there, and just like we started on the other side, we'll start down here, get this flush welded, weld this side, probably go ahead and cut it and trim it and finish this side. Then I've got the door kind of pulled down tight to the wood, and I also have a piece in here with a screw coming up from the bottom side just to hold this piece flat, so that, you know, just so I don't get a whole lot of waves in here, or hopefully won't. I mean, like I said, these are going to get body worked, but no sense of making it harder than it needs to be. Let's get that welded. Alright, we've got this side done. It's exactly the same way we've been working all the others. So now, what I'm going to do is take this clamp off, pull that one screw out from under the side, flip this over, weld this side of the panel all the way along, grind it down, and I've got a few spot wear welds that I've done in the end of the door, both ends. I need to clean those up. But basically this door is then done and can go get primed and painted. So, alright, let's flip it over. With this side, one of the last things we're going to want to do is I made a little piece of angle metal, whatever. We're going to weld this in here, put this bend in it so that it kind of lines this out the same way, and we can put a cover over this area as an access panel, or I can make a full panel to go around this. I think I forgot to mention, or forgot to film, when I put this patch panel in where the speaker hole was, and it was pretty rusty in here. So I just used the piece I cut out as part of the pattern, and then up here where the arch is, I just used the pieces of tape that I had done the outside of the door with to figure this out, and then just rolled some beads in it to try and match these beads. They're not exactly the same, but they're certainly close enough to, because I don't know exactly what I'm going to cover this door, and they'll definitely get painted to match the truck initially, but I may come back and make a panel that comes all the way around and just as a door panel, in which case I'll probably end up making that out of metal and then having it covered or something. But anyway, I don't know exactly what I'm going to do there, but I wanted that hole filled, and if we do speakers, they won't be in the doors themselves in the future. So for now, we just need to weld this up and then put this piece.
Well, I had a whole lot of troubles with my microphone this time, so as you can see here, I got no sound talking away, but what I'm trying to show you is two completed doors. Those doors are going on to the painter from here, and they will be painted most likely body color, and then we'll see about whether we add a door panel to the inside, a skin, rhino-line them, I don't know. I also need to do something where you would step on the door, you know, some kind of tread protection, whether it's, again, like a rhino liner or just a anti-skid tape. Again, I'm not sure exactly what we're going to do, but that's it. Thanks for hanging in here. I know it's been a long video. Please like and subscribe, hit the bell for notifications, all the other YouTube stuff. I'll see you again next time on Allison Customs Project Car TV.